Okay, you ready? So you have been working on chapter 6, hopefully. We're going to finish it up, some stuff that we have on chapter 6. So some of the things that we want to add to what we had so far is we want to learn how to do formatting, because when you were doing your payment thing, the interest and payment, then the columns were not all lined up. It would shift to the right or left, and then some numbers that we were putting, they were not in line in either. So that's part of the formatting. Now that we're writing to a file, we want to be sure that it's going to be formatted. Question?
I have a question.
Yes, what's the question?
Oh, while we're doing the project, are we going to have the sample test at the bottom of the CPP file?
To this, whatever you have on your screen, whatever is on the file, I'm going to do it myself. So if you're doing, if you're writing to a file, don't worry about it. I'm going to be doing it myself anyway.
Oh.
So you don't have to worry about that. If you have anything on the screen, yes. Okay, one of the things that you have, most of you have been using was to do the output for the decimal points. So we were using the fixed, show point, and precision. So we can use the same thing for our file. Now we used to do it on the cout. Now we can do it in outstream. Yes? Question? So precision 2 means what? 2 decimal points. So it would show the 2 decimal point. So when we say fixed, that is going to basically set F means it's going to set certain flag. So if you're taking an assembly language or anything like that, we have some bits that we can set the flag. So if it's on, that flag is going to be on. If it's off, that flag is going to be off. So we have certain flag here that we can turn on and off, and the program is going to be looking at it constantly. So if I set it one time, it's going to be throughout the program, and of course I can go and unset it. We're going to see how we're going to do that. So we put it on the outer stream, so we can set it as iOS : fixed. So that's going to create a fixed point notation versus the other one. So we have a show point. That means it's going to show the point even there is no zeros in there. So 6 would show as a 6.00. These are the ones that are available, and of course we got a little more than that. So the fixed scientific show point, show pause is going to show the positive sign. So sometimes you have numbers, we want to show plus or minus in front of it, no matter if it's positive or not. By default, there is not going to be any sign for the positive. We're going to show only the negative sign. But if we want to show the positive and negative, we're going to do the show pause. Then we can do a right justify and left justify. That's going to be very handy. For example, in Excel, the numbers are going to be right justify, the strings are left justify. We can rearrange it any way we want. So for the columns that we are creating, we can make it all lined up. So there is another thing called set widths, or we can put the width in there. So either we can set it through the other stream or cout. That's going to set 4, or we can put it inside the extraction code. So for now, we're going to set the width for 4. That means this 7 is going to be 4 instead of 1 character. It's going to be 4 character. Now we're going to do the right or left. That's how it's going to happen. So if I do a justify right, is going to have 3 spaces and 7. If I justify the left, it's going to be 7 and 3 after. If we set it too low, it's going to display it anyway. So if in this case, I have width 3 and I have a bigger than 3, then it's going to show that. It's not going to truncate it. It's not going to hide any character. So if it's more than that, it's going to show. So we got to put the highest one that we have. So the key here is the entire item is always output. So if we set it in a part of the program, we don't want it for the rest of the program, we can do an unset. That is going to be for any ones that we set so far. So we set it the width for 4. We can go on back and left justify, right justify. We can unset it. So the manipulators in member function, we can actually put it inside the extraction side. So we can use it at that time only, so it doesn't set the whole C out or out stream. So we can put it like this. So we can put set W4, set W6, set W4, and so on. Of course, I'm missing a 20 here somewhere. It's supposed to be a 20 over here. So it's doing the set W4 for 10, then set W4 for another 20, and then set W6 for 30. Because they are right justify, is going to have those spaces and this. So set W4 is going to give me 2 spaces before 10 right here, and set W4 is supposed to have a 20 over here. It's going to give me 2 spaces before 20, and set W6 is going to give me 4 spaces before 30. So if I'm creating columns, these are going to be all lined up. Remember, when I'm printing things in the column, the first 9 digits is the single digits, and then they're going to be 2 digits. So everything is going to be shifted for 1 character. Now I can set it for 2 or 3 or 4. Now it doesn't matter if it's a single digit or the 2 digit or even 3 digits. They're all going to come up in 1 line. So most of you know about the set precision. You have used it in your previous program for the C out. So we're going to set it for 2 to show 2 decimal points. So we're going to create it as a fixed show point, and then we're going to put a 2. What is the show point for? What's going to happen if I don't have a show point? Pardon me? If it doesn't have any decimal point, it's not going to show it. The show point is going to show it. So 10 is going to show as a 10.00. That's the show point for. So we need the pound include IO manip, and of course we're going to need using namespace std standard. Any questions on those? We're moving on to the next topic. Do we have any question on the formatting? So moving forward, all your outputs should be formatted correctly. Okay, next we're talking about passing files to the functions. Remember, we do not pass the whole file. We're just going to be passing the name of the file. There is a difference between saying this name belongs to an address of a file somewhere, or this name is actually a value. For that reason, we're going to be using the ampersand, meaning that this is referring to something else. This doesn't have a value by itself. Of course, it has some addresses in there. That address is not a value for this one. We are going to use that one to point it to somewhere else. Okay, so we can pass an input and output the file as a parameter to a function, but we have to have those ampersand. So how do we find out that we are the end of the file? There is two ways to find out. One is that there is a character. We have a character at the end of the line. We have a character at the end of the file. Those are not visible to us, but it is there. We can actually check for those. Another one is using this format that is going to be reading till there is nothing left. So if I'm reading, or I'm reading for names, or I'm reading for let's say I'm reading for first name or last name or something like that, I can keep reading till I'm done. So this is going to fail when I get to the end of the file. So I can have in a stream first name, I can have in a stream some numbers. So as far as I have those coming in, then I can keep going. So the way that's going to happen is while in a stream, we're going to have next. So it's going to read next, which is what? The type of double. So it's going to keep reading the double. It's going to add to the sum. It's going to add the count, and then it's going to do the average. So this is going to stop. Remember, in the computer, it doesn't know where the things are starting, where is it stopping. They're all continuous. So if I don't have end of line, or I don't have end of file, it's going to keep reading behind it. So it can pass after the file. If I don't have the character of end of the file, then it's going to read things after it. So somewhere, somehow, it has to know to stop. And that's where I'm going to tell it to stop. Otherwise, it's not going to stop. It's going to keep going. So some of the things coming up with the namespace is arguments on that one, that should be there all over the place. Everybody should have it. Some programs don't have it, some programs have it. So they say to put it in the function. So when we're moving our function, we can have the namespace in there. But the problem with that is if I have a global namespace and I put it in a function, there are some compilers that are going to complain about it. So that's going to be a problem. That's what the namespace is talking about. The easy solution is to place the using directive at the beginning of the file, and some people don't like that, but that's the easy fix for now. So the raw data is available to you to output all the files that you need for the programs to create for chapter 6. So 6.6 has a good example for you to do your assignment. So we need the IO manip. We can pass the files through the parameter for the function. We have a typical template for reading and writing to file. We have to have these files in there to be sure that I can open my file and I can read it. So formatting, we're reading from this file, we're going to format it and put it in another file. Okay, so that's one way of doing it for the assignment that's coming up, to removing your spaces. You can do it this way to remove the spaces. So while we be able to read from it, so we're going to keep reading it, we're going to do the set W field width, and then we're going to do next, and then we're going to put the init file the same thing. So we're going to do it on the screen and we're going to do it on the file. So if I had it like this, it's going to display like that. So that's one way of doing your assignment. Remember that these conclusions is going to be in your test, and your final is going to be on the Monday. Not next Monday. Monday of the final week.
And what are we gonna do on Wednesday?
The Wednesday you can go home and relax. You want to come back here, you can come back here. I don't think I'm going to be here. I might be grading your papers. So if you want to come in, I come in.
I don't want to see it.
But technically, if you have a class, the way that they set up the finals is to be sure you're not overlapping with another class. So most likely that another test, another final is going to be on Wednesday. So the way that they schedule it, so they don't want to overlap. So you should know that. You should know this. And let me know if you have any questions. Okay, next topic is about character I/O. Okay, this is another part of your assignments that you're going to be doing. So I can read a number as a character. Okay, so if I have 10, I can read it as a character. If I read one character, it's going to be just 1, and then I'm going to read another character, that's going to be 0. Single quote means one character. This is not a number. I cannot add or subtract from it. This is just a character. Okay, there is a big difference between the character 1 and number 1. If you look at the ASCII code, they are in different places. So the reason we need this is early on, some of you were asking, okay, if I'm asking for a number and my user put a character, what I'm going to do? Or vice versa, if I'm looking for a character and they put a number. So one way of doing it is read one character and then figure out if that is a character or is a number. If it's a number, then maybe I put it back and read the whole number. If it's a character, maybe I want to do something with it. So that is a possibility of reading input to see what it is. So there are some functions available to these things, so we can do the input and output. Remember, this is going back to the classes and objects. We have the object for this. For the see in, see out, we have objects that we have some functions related to those objects that we can use, and for this one we have some functions that we can use for the character. Do not perform automatic conversions, allow you to do input and output in any way you can devise. So I talked a little bit about the member function that belongs to the objects. We talked about the objects and classes in this chapter. You will going to go to the details of that in 3A if you guys taking the 3A, hopefully in the fall. So we're talking about the difference between getting a single character and we're seeing the extraction operator. Extraction operator is going to go over the spaces. So instead of using that, we're going to be using cin.get. Cin.get is just take one character. Okay, so one character is going to include the end of the file. It's going to include the end of the line. So this is the new line character \n. We put it in for the cout, but when we're reading it, we don't see it. So when we ask the user, please enter a number and push enter, the enter key is going to create this \n for us. That's the end of the line. We don't see it, but it is in there. So if I use the extraction thing, it's going to stop before this. So the example of using this, and remember this is because it's .get, it's going to read only one character. So we're going to open a file, we're going to start reading one character at a time. Okay, now this is something that I think is going to be very important for your test. I'm reading 3 characters over here. I have A, B, C, D. The character 1, character 2, character 3 is what? No, it is end of the line. It says right here. So that's the character 3. If I use the extraction, it's going to go over it. So this type is going to go a step over the end of the line. It's going to skip the new line character. It's called white spaces. New line, any kind of a spaces is going to go over it. So this one is going to read and echo a line. So we're going to read it and you're going to display it. We're going to use the .get to read the symbol or character or whatever we want to call it. We're going to display it and we're going to do this while it's not the end of the line. So we're going to do from the beginning to the end. At the end of the line we're going to stop. Because I have a do while, it's going to do what? It's going to see out all these things, including the \n. Why? Because I'm reading it over here. So I read it, it is a \n, I'm going to print it, and then I'm going to check it to see if it's there or not. I could have it upside down, have a while over here, then I wouldn't have the \n. Okay, now the difference between the single quote and double quote. I talked about this last time, and we talk a little more about it. The single quote is one character. Even though we call it as a \n, that is just one character. It is not two characters. Two double quote \n, it is actually two characters, because at the end of the string we always have \0. \0 or null character is going to define where is the end of the string. We don't see it, but it is there. So meaning that this is just one character, this is two characters. So if I take this as this one and I try to put it in one character, it's not going to work. This is a string. This is two characters. This is a character, is just one character. But when I'm doing the cout statement, they're both going to do the same thing, meaning it's going to give me a carriage return. There is another one called put. This put is the get is going to do what? It's going to get one character. Put is going to put one character. It's just like a cout, but it's going to do one character at a time. So it's going to take a argument as a char, one character, and it's going to put it. So we can put it in display, or I can put it in file. So the way it works, I can have the out stream dot put, and we're going to put the character in there. Remember, character is single quote. If I put a double quote, that's going to be two characters. It's not going to work. It's going to give you a complaint. Okay, this is another thing that you can use. Okay, I want you to pay attention to this. You might, most likely, you may need this. When we read things from input, it's going to go in a buffer. It's going to stay in the buffer. So when we're reading things, sometimes we're going to look ahead. We're going to look at the next character. Or when we're reading, we might be reading something and then we want to analyze it and then we want to put it back. So the example that we had earlier, if I had the user to put 10 and I didn't know if the user is going to put a character or a number, I read the first character, that would be 1, and then I check it to be sure it's a number. Now if I want to read a number, I don't have 10 anymore, I have only 0 because I already read 1. So this put back is going to put it back in the buffer. Now when I read, I can read the 10 as a number. Remember, I'm not going to read it as a character because I don't want to change it. To changing 10 back from the characters to number is going to be a hard thing to do. So the best way is to put the 1 back. We're going to use the put back. As soon as I know it's a number, I put it back. Now I'm going to read the whole number, 10. Is he sleeping over here? Wake up. Wake up. this is another one that can be helpful for your removing the spaces, for that assignment that you have removing the spaces. So we can check to see, we're going to look at the one, and if it's not the space, we're going to do what? We're going to put it in there, and then we're going to read the next one. If it's a space, we are not going to do it. Okay, so what's going to happen? We're going to put it back. Why are we going to put it back? Because when we have this one, we're going to just go back one time. So we're going to put the space back. So this is going to be another helpful thing for your assignment. Yes, sir.
Why is it putting it somewhere?
Put is, okay, F out is what? F out is a file that we have. So this is putting it into that file. Okay, this one is putting it back in the buffer. So my next read is going to read the last one that I had.
Doesn't this just read one character of code?
As what it is reading is, as far as it's not the spaces, I'm going to read characters. So it's going to read characters till it gets to the space, and it's going to stop. So if I have my space name, it's going to read my, and it's going to put it in that file. So it's just going to read character, it's going to stop at the space. But because I already read the space, I'm going to put it back. Now I have a space in the in my buffer. Yes, sir.
What is the second dot get next to?
Okay, so remember in the while we're going to do what? We're going to read first. Okay, so we're reading one character here, right? We're checking this character to see if it's a space or not.
Right.
If it's not a space, we're going to put it in the file.
Right.
We're going to read it again.
So we're going to read it from.
We're going to read it again from what? From this file.
Okay.
We're reading from this file. Then we're going to do what? We're going to check it again. If it's not a space, we're going to put it in the file. We're going to read it again. We're going to keep doing this till it's a space. Then we're going to stop and we're going to put it back. Yes, sir. You can use the do while. What's the difference with the do while? You're going to execute it one extra time. So this one, if the very first character is a space, it's not going to go through this. Remember, we're going to read it first time. So if the very first character is a space, it's not going to do this. The do while is going to do it no matter what happens to the first character. If you're not concerned about the first character, you can use the do while. Yes, Denzel.
Alright, so say the first character is like say 1, and so we put 1 into the out file, then we look at that next.
We're going to look, okay, let's say that the first one is 1, right? So we read 1 here. Is it a space? No. We're going to put it in the file, and then we're going to read the next one. Let's say it's a 0. We come back. Is it a space? No. We're going to put it there. We're going to read the next one, so it's a space. Is it a space? Yes. So we're getting out, but we have a space. So we're going to put the space back in the buffer. So next time we read it, then we're going to have a space. Every time we read one character, we're going to go to the next one.
That last part, so we say it is a space, and we jump out, what is that then dot put back?
We're going to put back. So we're going to put it in the buffer. F in was what? It's coming in, right? That was my buffer coming in from the file input file. Okay? I'm going to put it in the buffer. I'm not going to put it in the file. It's going to go back to the buffer. So if I have 1, 0, I do get f in dot get next. Okay? I get 1, 0, right? Then if I say get in next, I'm going to get 1, right? So this is going to give me 1. My next is going to be 1. So if I do put back, it's going to go back and put that one back. So the 1 is going to go back to the buffer. So if I go back after this and I do C in a number, it's going to read 10. If I don't put it back, I already read 1, and if I do C in a number, it's going to give me 0 because I already read 1. Does that make sense?
I'll ask you after.
Okay. So one of the reasons that we want to do this is going to be the checking the input to see if the input is correct, and if it's correct we can use it. If it's not correct, we don't use it. So if I'm expecting a character, I can check it, and then if it's a character, I'm going to check it to see if it's a y or a lowercase y, and if it's not a character, it's a number, I put it back and I read it and do something else with it. So we can check for the end of the line. There is a character for end of line, or we can use the \n, either way. So we have here creating a sum symbol. We're going to read, we're going to by the .get, so we're reading one character, and as far as it's not \n, we're going to keep reading. Okay, so this is going to do what? It's just going to keep reading till it gets to \n. So a lot of you are using this already. So we can now use any kind of a character. So if we are expecting a number, we can check it to see if it's a character, and if it's a character, we can just check it to see what it is. Yes, sir.
How do you change this to take the answer as y, yes, yes?
You just change it to a string. So instead of the answer to be one char, you're going to change it to a string. And then you're comparing the string, you can do that. That's not a problem. Then you can check to see if it's a YES. But remember, if the YES, they have to be exact match. Or I'll show you how to change it to uppercase, lowercase. Because if somebody put a capital Y, E, lowercase s, and you're looking for lowercase y, e, s, then it's not going to be a match.
Is that a way that can make the program understand no matter it's capital X or capital or small x, it's still going to count as an F?
That's a good one. Let me show you how we're going to do that. In 2 slides, I'll tell you how we're going to change that. Okay, so the question is how we're going to do a lowercase, uppercase, and it's coming up. Alright, so this is a very, very important thing. Somebody talked to me, actually it was Ben today about it, and this is very important. When we're mixing up the cin with the .get, we're going to have extra character that you might not be able to see. Okay, so when you are using cin, it's going to read, this is a very, very important line. It's going to read up to the \n, and it's going to stay there. So in the buffer, we have end of line. Cin does not read the end of line. Okay, so it has read something before end of line. The reason it doesn't care for it, because next time around, it's going to skip over end of line. Cin skips over any kind of spaces, any kind of end of line. So the end of line is in the buffer. Now, if I read the .get, what's going to happen? The cin.get is going to go read the \n. So if I mix them up, all of a sudden you see that you have cin.get is not giving you what you wanted, because it's going to go back to the buffer, it's going to read the end of line. So you have to use something like ignore, or you just got to read it and do something with it, because you're going to have an extra character at the end if you mix them up. If you use the cin and cin.get, and basically what we're saying is if cin.get comes after cin, there is a potential of having an extra \n in the buffer that we have to handle. Right, Ben?
Yep.
So we are using a cout. Now we're reading a number. Okay, when I'm reading a number, what's going to happen? The user is going to put a number, is going to put the carriage return. Now enter a letter, and then we have a char, and we're reading the symbol. So we're expecting to read a character, but that's not the case because the carriage return has been in the buffer over here. So basically, it's going to read the carriage return. It's not reading a number. This is what the user puts. This is what we have. So after this cin, we have to read this one \n. We have to discard it before we start reading something else. When we're mixing it up, after cin, if I have a cin.get, I have extra character, I have to handle that one. So either I'm going to do two of these things. I'm going to do cin.ignore, so ignore the buffer, or I can use the cin.flush to flush my buffer. I have to handle my buffer before I do this. Which one did you use? Okay. So what's your question?
How do you, okay, so ignore seems to move forward and throw out the next one. How do you throw out the one that the input buffer is holding currently?
The ignore is going to ignore the current one and it's going to move on. You can use a flush. It's going to flush up the whole buffer. Whatever is in the buffer is going to flush up. You can use that one too. So another fix is we're going to do a new line. That was the one that we created earlier. The function new line that was going through whatever is left, and we're going to find the, you remember that function? It was from the display 6.7, so it would read up to the \n, and that's going to do it. So how are we going to find the end of the file? Remember, there is a character end of the file to say that this is the end of the file, so we don't go beyond the end of the file. There is two ways of doing it. One of them is to actually use the function EOF. This is going to tell me that I'm in the end of the line, end of the file. So that's one way of doing it. My favorite way is when I'm using the extraction one, I just keep reading till I don't have nothing else to read. So I can do this, but my favorite would be putting this one inside of here. If I put this one inside of here, I'm going to say while instream.get next, it's just going to read it inside here. I don't need this anymore. So this one and that one, I can put it in here. And it's going to keep reading it till I don't have any more to read. So I can put that one in here, and I say while instream.get next. It's going to be doing it right here. Or I can use this one, doesn't matter. To me, the other one is a little less writing. So there is two ways of doing it. If I can do it this way, so I'm reading the next one, keep narrating it, or I'm going to be using it EOF and the file. So which one do we use? Basically what it says is an input is treated as a text, and using a member function get to read input. In general, use the extraction operator method when processing numeric. So we're going to use this for number, we're going to use this for characters or a string. That's the general rule of thumb. So we're going to be having this example that's going to be going to a file. It's going to take any capital C that it sees, and it's going to change it to C++. So we're opening two files, one for reading in, one for writing, and then we're going to be looking for capital C. So the function is going to call add ++, fin is the file in, fout is file out. Once again, you have to have a comment on the top of your program and for every function that you're creating. So we are going to have our in stream and out stream coming in. Remember, we need the ampersand for them to be sure that we are using them as a reference to a file. So we are using while not in stream.eof. So this is my input file. I'm going to be reading it till I get to the end of the file. So I'm checking to see if my character is single quote C. If that's the case, I'm going to put the C++ in there. I cannot use the put because this is more than one character. And if it's not C, I'm just going to put the next one into the file. So it's going to go through here and it's going to just take the C and change it to C++. Yes, sir.
You said there's an easy way of doing that. You can just put that string.getNext inside the while loop, right?
Right.
So that's like an easy way to just go ahead and throw it inside the.
Yes, inside the while. I would do that. And I show you, I have an example that I did with him. I showed you. So the character functions are available in CC type, and we can use that one for the character one. So we're going back to what he was asking earlier. He was asking if I have a certain character, I don't want to check for the lowercase, uppercase. One way of doing it is change everything to either uppercase or lowercase. So if I'm asking for Y or lowercase y, uppercase Y, I can change it to my input to upper or to lower and just check it for either one. So one way that Microsoft dealing with these things is Microsoft is changing everything to upper. So everything is in uppercase, then we don't have to worry about lowercase, uppercase. So one of the functions to upper, we're going to change the lowercase to upper. And remember, it's just one character. Or we could do the static cast char. Another function that's available is called isSpace. That's the one you're going to be using for your assignment. It's checking to see if this is a space. And if it's a space, I'm going to do something with it. Otherwise, I'm just going to put whatever is up. So I'm checking it to see if it's a space. The word is a space. It's going to return true if it's a space, and it's going to return false if it's not a space. So we have two upper, two lower. We have is upper, is lower to check it to see if the character is uppercase or lowercase. Is alpha is checking for alphanumeric. Actually alpha, not alphanumeric. Then let's see. So it's looking for alpha. We're looking for is digit. We can check to see if it's digit. We can check it to see if it's a space. Those functions are available in #include CC type. So you should be able now to write a code that will read a line of text and echo the line with all the uppercase letters detected. We're checking for uppercase only. So let's see how you guys are going to do this in your test coming up for the final. Describe two methods to detect the end of input file and why the spaces. Okay, now I was working with one of your classmates about how to remove the spaces. We were working on it. What did you put it in the Blackboard? Email? Now you want me to open the email in front of everybody?